another session on Gyanadam. Today is a program under Gyanpedia. We have invited today Mr. Prakash Garde. He's an avid photographer and bird specialist, and I'll just read a little. He's a retired RBI officer. Mr. Prakash Garde is a passionate bird watcher and nature photographer. He has prepared a preliminary list of birds in and around Nagpur and Vidarbha region. He convened the first Maharashtra Pakshi Mitra Sammelan at Nagpur in January 1982 and is credited with rediscovering the great Indian bustard near Nagpur after monitoring its potential habitat over 10 years. Prakash has published a detailed study on the nests of house crows and Asian quails and their parasitizing behavior. He has conducted numerous workshops on the introduction of bird watching. Besides ornithology, his other hobbies include reading and woodworking and carving. So Prakash, before we start, I just wanted to ask you, how did you develop a love for birds and bird watching?
First of all, let me wish a very good evening to everybody. And yes, Farooq, I was at Nagpur when it all started. Mr. Prakash Gole had come to Nagpur for a small function, which was arranged by the World Wildlife Fund, Nagpur branch. And I happened to meet him. I was actually introduced to him. And there I learned that he was to visit this Navegaon Bandh bird sanctuary, which is very close to Nagpur, around 125 kilometers or so. So what I first thought was he was going through WWF, but no, he was going individually. So I just approached him very apprehensively and just asked him whether he would like us to come with him or whether we can come with him. So he said very gladly he accepted.
And what was your age that time?
Maybe around 30 to 33.
Very long.
Yeah, it's a pretty long time. I think it was in 1976 or 77. And then, we went there, we spent 2 nights and 3 days there. And while with him, I was introduced to birding. And then as they call it, the bug bit me.
The bug bit you. The bird did not bite you, the bug bit you. So which sanctuary you said was this in near Nagpur?
Navegaon Bandh.
Navegaon Bandh. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And this thing about this great Indian bustard, would you like to talk about it just now or during your presentation if you'd like to talk
No,
about it?
I haven't included that part because I have included only those birds which are around Pune.
So,
and very common birds. I haven't included very, rare or exotic type of birds. But the common birds which a common man can see anywhere.
So
If he just visits.
would you like me to start your presentation, sir?
Yeah, we do.
So I will now start the presentation. I hope everybody can see the screen properly. And so Prakash, you can start with your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Before I really start with the presentation, I wish to say that I have prepared this presentation keeping in mind those who generally do not have much knowledge about birds. So it's for a common man, you can say. And so what I have done is common birds which can be seen around Pune, those I have included, and not included birds which some efforts are required to see. I mean, you have to go somewhere, you have to make special efforts to see those birds. Those I have excluded deliberately because this whole program I have aimed at a common person who is not aware, much aware of birds, but would like to know some more about it, something about it. And at the outset, let me tell you, in today's elite gathering, there are some experts on birds, and I'm sure they know much more than me in this subject. So I would request their indulgence for my shortcomings, of which I am very intensely aware. So, okay, I think we'll start with the program. Now, what are birds? Basically, this is I'll finish the introduction in a few slides. Feather bipeds, that is shortest definition of birds, and they are warm-blooded vertebrates like us. And many people don't know that they are descendants of dinosaurs. Evolved 165 to 150 million years ago, the fossil of Archaeopteryx was unearthed in 1861 in Germany, has now been accepted as a link between dinosaur and birds. Because scientists, before finding of this fossil, scientists were perplexed as to how the birds might have evolved. But when they saw this fossil, there were clear indications of how it could have come from the dinosaurs. Okay. Then continental drift and changing geographical climatic conditions led to speciation. That means different species. There are about 10,000 species of birds in the world, of which 1,400 are in India. Maharashtra has approximately 600 species, and Pune boasts of about 450 species. Of course, these are approximations. These figures keep changing every day. Next.
Is a fossil.
Yes. The link between the dinosaurs and modern day bird was established with the unearthing of this fossil in 1961 in Germany, as I told you. And thereafter, many others have been found in China, basically. And particularly at this time, in 1861, it has been accepted as a link between the earlier animals and birds. So it is believed that from this small dinosaurs, the birds have evolved. So this is the picture of Archaeopteryx. Okay. Next. Now, physical features of birds. We all generally know how birds look. However, there are differences in size, postures, shape of wings, eyes, beaks, legs, talons, tails, and of course, coloration. These differences have evolved to suit their lifestyle. Now, lifestyle, food preferences, and purpose for which the bird uses these organs. So now let us see eyes. Birds have very efficient and well-developed eyesight. And somebody has said that a bird can change, from a microscope to a telescope in a fraction of a second. So you can imagine how powerful the eyesight could be. And so is the hearing. Birds are able to hear much more, many more frequency than human ear. They generally have a weak sense of smell, except vultures and honey guides, kiwi, etc. Then sense of taste is also not very well developed. Sense of touch. So it comes to sense of touch is pursued through the vibrations reaching to the skin through feathers. They do not have larynx or vocal cords like us. Still, they are able to produce very many types of sounds. How is this possible? So they instead have a syrinx, a rigid bone structure surrounded by an air sac. Sound is produced by the vibration in the wall of the organ. The air sac acts as a resonating chamber, and birds can produce a vast variety of sounds, as I said. They make different types of sounds to communicate with each other. Next. Now, classification of birds here, I'm not talking about scientific classification, but classification from a common man's point of view. So first thing is according to habitat, where they are found. So they can be found in thick jungles, scrub jungles, grasslands, wetlands, deserts, mountains and hills, valleys, seashore, etc. I mean, everywhere where there is a land, birds can be seen. Even birds can be seen in the deep sea. But of course, they have to come to the shore for some very important purpose of nesting. And according to food, whether they are fructivorous, carnivorous. Carnivorous can be subdivided into two categories, hunters and scavengers. Insectivorous, grain eaters, and omnivorous. So most of the birds are omnivorous to be.
Omnivorous means
Omnivorous means eating everything.
eating everything.
Insects or meat or water. I mean non-veg as well as vegetarian. So that is omnivorous. Then geographical status. You can classify them according to geographical status also. They are endemic, that is limited to a particular area in the land or locality, then local or migratory. Some birds restrict themselves to one particular habitat or one particular country, you can say, or to a state. And then that limited geographical area they will be found. That is endemic. And local or migratory. Local means bird which stays throughout the year in one particular environment and habitat. And migratory means those who travel from one place to the other, sometimes some continents also, across the continents they go. So we'll talk about it, a little later after in our program. And third thing is whether they are tree dwelling, ground dwelling, etc. Next.
Yeah.
So birding spots are in and around Pune. So on the left side, I have listed local spots like Pashan Lake, Pune University, etc. And on the right hand side, I have listed places which are slightly outside Pune, but which are approachable, quite close by, and they are important birding spots as far as Pune is concerned. So most of us must have visited, all birders, they do visit these sites. Next. Now, just go to the previous. Yeah.
All periods.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, now in this slide, I have also indicated what type of a habitat it is. Now, yeah, Pashan Lake, as you know, it's a wetland and there are woods also around it. Pune University, only woods. Vetal Hill Complex, especially Stone Quarry near ARI, is a mixed type of habitat. Mula Mutha Bird Sanctuary is a riverine habitat. Parvati Hill is again a mixed habitat. Then there is a hill between Kothurud and Varje, which in our area we are calling it Mahatma Tekdi. So Mahatma Tekdi is behind the Mahatma Society, which is a very big cooperative society. So just behind that, this hill is there. And also it is approachable from Varje side. Then there is Taljai temple. So all these, and then Simbagad Valley as well as fort. Then Kaskarsai Dam, it's a wetland. Kaudi Part is a riverine wetland. Pabe Ghat. Pabe Ghat is also a very important birding destination. It's a wooded country mostly. Then Saswad, Wagapur, this is a grassland type of environment. Then Veer Dam, it's again a wetland. Madhureshwar Chinkara Sanctuary, that's also a grassland type habitat mostly. Big one, and Tamini. Big one, of course, everybody must be knowing anyway. So these are the type of habitats which are around Pune. Now, these are the birds which I am now introducing, the birds which are very easily available just around us. All these pictures which I am likely to show you, these photographs have been taken from my balcony.
Yeah.
From my own house, I am able to see all these birds.
We have seen these birds in Panjini also.
Yeah. So this is a red-vented bulbul on the top, and then a red-whiskered bulbul. These are local birds. Next. This is a tailor bird. Farooq, the other day you were asking me how they are named.
Tailor, why tailor bird?
Yeah, why a tailor bird? Because it stitches two adjacent leaves together by boring, actually making holes on both sides, both leaves, and parallel to each other. And then it will use the thread of cobweb to stitch them together.
Thread of the cobweb?
Yeah. And it's quite strong. That thread is quite strong, and it holds it also. But nowadays, of course, they can get nylon thread and all other things. So everything is used for that stitching purpose, but it stitches those two leaves together and makes its nest. So that is why a tailor bird. Next. Now this is an oriental white-eye. Next. These are sunbirds. Sunbirds are very tiny, smaller than our sparrow, nearly half the size. This purple sunbird is very active. And now is the breeding season of these birds. All these birds.
And they suck nectar from the flowers.
Yeah, they suck nectars. And also, of course, they are not bothered about eating insects also.
Yeah.
So this is a songster, oriental magpie robin.
Songster.
Songster. Now is the breeding season, and you can hear it singing in the morning. Early morning, this is the first bird which is singing.
Achha. 3:30-4 बजे सुबह जो.
नहीं, इतना जल्दी नहीं. Say around 6:30.
6:30.
Daily I am able to hear it. Now this is Tickle's blue flycatcher. It's a very small, tiny, dainty bird, and very active during this period. Slightly, in July and August, they will come and make nests in my society garden. So this was also taken in my society garden. Next.
What beautiful colors are.
Now this is again about this, Farooq, I would like to tell you one thing. This bird, I was hearing for a long time when I was in the college at that time. And I used to be studying in the months of February and March. And I would hear a sound, talk, 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 like that. So I was wondering what is making that sound, because it sounded almost like a old-time flour mill, So old-time flour mill, it used to make that kind of sound. Yeah.
Joint to the
Yeah. No, that exhaust. That exhaust from that machine would make that sound. So this will continue for a long time. And then at that time, I was not so much interested in birds. But then when I first saw this and heard it, then I immediately got related to this bird. And I wrote my first article on birds on this bird.
The coppersmith makes
Coppersmith. Yeah, it makes the noise like a hammering of the coppersmith on its anvil. So that is why it is known as thumbat. Next. Now this is a Brahmani Maina.
Beautiful.
And this also makes very interesting noises, sounds. This also is, I'll tell you some little story about it. At Nagpur, when I was there, this bird would come in the afternoon and sit on the meter box of my house. And then it will start its calling or whatever noise it used to make. So we used to call it singing. It is not actually singing, but it makes all sorts of noises. Next. Now I have deliberately included this quail and male and female because many people don't realize these belong to the same species. This is a male which is totally dark and that is the one which sings. And this female is brown and speckled, I mean, with black, dark
This
brown.
blue color is true or is it a photographic effect?
No, that is a light effect,
Light
photographic effect, and effervescent. I mean, this
Shining.
वो जो shining आता है ना, it's like that. And this is Indian grey hornbill. Let me tell you, all these photographs I have taken from my home.
Oh.
Yeah. Next.
ज़्यादा दूर जाने की जरूरत नहीं.
ज़्यादा दूर जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. Now this rose ring parakeets, which is a very common bird, mostly people know about it. And this Sikandar poppet is an Alexandrian parakeet. So this is much bigger than the first one. And why I'm showing it here is, what I noticed is the rose ring parakeet eats the pods of that tree without removing it from the tree. So it will break it there itself and eat it. Whereas this Alexandrian parakeet, it will break it from there, take it to its favorite perch or where it's more comfortable, and then open the pod and start eating. Next. No.
I'm going to go behind.
No, that's okay. Now, birds of the scrub jungle, if you go slightly away from your immediate locality, then what kind of a habitat you get is a little scrub jungle, grassland, or peripheries of jungles. So those birds which can be seen in those areas, I'll show you now. Now, this is a golden oriole. I have very interesting observations about this bird. Once while I was at Nagpur, as I told you before, I was sitting at a small swimming pool. Actually, it's a very old swimming pool at the Lankhedi Gardens at Nagpur. So it was abandoned, but it is still there. And it did have water at that time, even today maybe. So suddenly I saw a yellow streak coming down from the right side and getting into the water. So I just wondered what it could be. I thought it was something I just imagined. But then it took off from there and came and sat very close to me on the electric pole. And it had a small dead fish in its beak. And practically it was fishing like a kingfisher. But then this fellow doesn't have waterproof feathers. So what it was dripping with water, dripping water from all over its body. So that is one observation. Another observation is this fellow, once there was a small patch of tall grass. So I saw this fellow hovering over that patch. I was wondering what it was doing because it couldn't have perched on the grass. It was too delicate for it. But then it was fanning the grass and insects were coming out from there. It was flushing out the insects and catching them in flight. Next. Now this is again a very, and moreover the earlier one, golden oriole also makes beautiful whistles. Okay. It has a very, very melodious whistling during its breeding season.
The male and female all look the same?
No. Mostly I have selected males, but female is similar, but off color, and it has got a brownish, off-white underside and streaked with brownish dashes. Now this is again a very nice singing bird, Iora, but this is a female. I couldn't get the male properly. So this is a female, and They also make very good sound, singing. Next. Now these are the 4 types of munias we get here. First one is a silver bill. Second to the right is scaly-breasted munia. The red one is a red munia, of course, or averabat as they call it. And the fourth one is tricolor munia. So because it has 3 colors. Next. Now this is a very well-known bird, Baya beaver bird. And very well known for its nest which it makes.
The Baya nest.
Yeah, Baya nest. This green bee eater, this is also, this special thing about it is mostly birds make their nests either on the ground or in the trees, bushes or something like that. Whereas this fellow burrows holes in the embankment.
In the embankment.
Yeah, and then goes and nests there. Mud
So
walls,
the side
mud
of the
walls,
water
side of the water, mud bank you can say. So there it makes nests and
inside, it drills a hole inside.
it drills a hole in the ground. Next. Now,
Kotwal.
this is a Kotwal black bronco. This is a bird which is a very good mimic. And it can make the sound, calls, imitate the calls of many birds, and it can also imitate the alarm calls of those birds particularly.
It can mimic other birds.
Yeah, it can mimic other birds. And you see, I have heard it making the noise of, sound similar to a cat, cat's meowing. Also, it makes an alarm call for other birds. So other birds will fly away and whatever they are grazing at, so this fellow will go and grab it.
It's the same bird we were having a discussion in Gyanpedia group where Mustafa said it's a very brave bird.
Correct.
It can fight
Yes,
other birds also.
It can fight with a bigger birds like kite, and one of my friends has taken a beautiful picture of it. Almost picking at the crested hawk eagle.
To protect its nest and all.
No, otherwise also they don't like these bigger prey birds to come closer to them. Next. Now this is also a very good mimic. Yes, I'll tell you a very small anecdote about it. Once in the beginning of my bird watching career, I heard noise from a tree, calls of many birds. So I expected to see a good number of species there and started walking towards that tree. But then suddenly the noise stopped. I had not seen any bird flying away. So what I thought is, how is it? How I am not seeing any bird there, and now suddenly they have stopped. Then I went away. And then again the noise started, as if there are many birds and making a sort of a mixed noise. But what happened is, again I came closer, again the noise stopped. And then I thought okay, there is something wrong. I did not see this bird also. So I went to the other side of the tree, and this was the lone bird there, making all sorts of noises.
Such a racket.
Yeah, it was such a racket. Next. Now, just one. The long-tailed shrike is also in Marathi. It is known as khatik. Khatik is a butcher bird. So butcher, this is also known as butcher bird. Why butcher bird? Because the place which it kills more than what it can eat at one time. So to preserve the thing which it has killed, it will impale it in the thorns of bubble tree. And then the place looks like a butcher's shop. Next.
That food doesn't get
They can eat rotten things also. This is again a grassland bird, hoopoe.
The Hindi word is very good. Hudhud, kiwa.
Hudhud.
अच्छा. Hudhud किंवा uppo.
Hudhud, it is known in Hindi or Marathi also sometimes. It has got a beautiful crest which opens up like a fan and looks very beautiful there. Next. This is again a very common grassland bird, red-winged lark. In Marathi, it is chandol. So this bird makes a very interesting display behavior. It has got a very interesting display. It will fly straight up and then come down slowly, flickering its wings, and gradually come down and land closer to the female. So it is attracting the female and displaying itself. Next.
Like a military aircraft,
Yes. Next. This is again a grassland bird. I am a rain quail. This is quail. We have many varieties of quails here, which can be seen around Pune. And this I am showing only the typical one, which will now be very active in this rainy season. That is why it is called rain quail. It becomes very active in this period, and it is coming from other areas. Next. This is again a francolin titar, and mostly these can be heard around in any grassland or agricultural fields. This is slightly bigger than almost a small hen.
It looks like a small hen, yeah.
Small hen. Next. Now this is the only bird which has got a pair of white legs, totally China white legs it has got, and it prefers to run on the ground more than flying away. Next. Now, pond titwi or red water lapwing, everybody must have heard. It makes quite a loud noise. It makes, and it is supposed to be inauspicious, but there is nothing like this, because in the evening or even in the night it can be heard calling. Comparatively, this mar titwi or the yellow water lapwing is quieter, but both of them have a typical habit of deceiving their hunters, other hunters, predators like dogs or jackals. If they come closer to their nest, they will pretend as if they're injured and their wing is broken and all that. So they will walk like that for some distance. So the predator thinks that this is easy prey. So instead of going to the nest, it will follow this bird. And then it will take away the predator, deceiving the predator. And when it is, at a safe distance from the nest, they will take to the air. Next. Now this is a very common bird which can be heard in this season now. It's a common hawk cuckoo. Next. This is also a parasitical bird, that one. Cuckoo is all cuckoos are parasitical in their nesting.
किसी और के nest
में egg डाल देंगे. And these birds, they even target the small tailor bird or Assyrian warbler, like that. You must have seen pictures of the small bird sitting on top of a bigger bird and feeding it.
Big egg, bigger bird.
Bigger bird.
वो जो छोटे bird जो निकलते थे
Yeah. Now this is a shikara. This is a hunter. Predator or what I say, raptors.
So they will catch snakes and
yeah, small animals and lizards and frogs and next. Both these black-winged kite and common kestrel have one thing in common, that they hover in the air some distance away, at some height, and then they will survey the ground for their prey, like rodents or snake or small lizards there particularly the one on top was actually eating a skink. Yeah. Next. Now, birds of the jungle, I'm not showing too many of these out of time constraint and all. So this is a tipkewala pingala or spotted owlet, and the one at the bottom is jungle owlet. Next.
And you can see them in the daytime.
These birds can be seen in the daytime also, and they're in the evening they are making noise. Now this is the top one is a crested serpent eagle, and this is changeable hawk eagle or crested hawk eagle. It is called changeable because its coloration changes throughout the year. Next. Now this is a typical mottled wood owl. It's a master in camouflaging. As you can see,
Beautiful.
it's a pattern on the wings. So it can merge with the tree trunk without any problem.
It can change different colors also?
No, it does.
Only this is texture.
Texture. That is the color. Next.
So it goes to the bark of the trees or something.
Yeah. Now birds at the water bodies. Most commonly seen is common kingfisher, which is smaller, and this white-throated kingfisher. The first one is common kingfisher is totally dependent on water for its food. And the one at the bottom is the least dependent on water. It can be seen in my locality. I see it every day. So there is no water source immediately nearby.
Waterproof
Yes. These both these birds have waterproof wings and feathers, so they don't get wet even if they dive in the water. Next. Now this is a third type of kingfisher which we get here, wild kingfisher, and this fellow also surveys the water below from a height, and then accurately dives and catches the fish. You can see if you insert a stick in water, it will appear bent. So there is a refraction, it is called. So it calculates the refraction and everything, and then appropriately catches the fish. Next. Now these are the, on the banks of any water body, you can see these things. Indian moor hen. Next. This is the purple swamp hen. This can be seen in our Pashan Lake in good number, very easily. Next. These are also very easily seen around any water body. On the banks of any water body, you'll see this little ring plover or these spotted sandpipers.
Why is it called sandpiper? Just
Sandpiper is the typical call that it makes, and maybe it is because it is roaming in the sand. Next. Now this is a greater painted snipe. Generally, the male is more colorful, and the female is dull in color. The basic purpose for it is because they have to rear the chicks, incubate the eggs, so they should not be seen by the predators. So that is why their coloration is different. But in this one, the female is the one which is more colorful. The first on the left one is a female, and the other one to the right is the male.
This is an exception.
Exception to the rule. And another good another thing about this bird is the female is polyandrous. That means it will mate with more number of males, more than one male in a breeding season, and it will not take any part in incubation or rearing the chicks. It is the responsibility of the father.
So they'll just lay the eggs.
Yes, they will just lay the eggs and go away, find another mate. And now this poor father has to take care of the chicks till they become independent. Next.
Role reversal.
Now this is a very common type of bird which you can see anywhere. Pond heron. in full coloration, breeding colors.
ये कहाँ से लिया आपने photo?
ये पाषाण पे लिया हुआ है.
So that's the hyacinth below that or what?
Yes, something like that. Floating vegetation. This is not hyacinth. This is something different. I don't know exactly the name. Next. Now this is a duck chick, which is the smallest duck that we have, and it will dive underwater and remain underwater for quite a long time, and then come up somewhere else.
But it lives on fishes, right?
Yeah, fish or small other insects, etc. underwater. Next. Now these are the type of herons you get. Now, Farooq, I'll tell you, in the initial stages, I was struggling to know why these are called herons and why others are called egrets. White, totally white is an egret, and any coloration there is a heron. That is the only differentiation I could make out at that time. Now, these are herons. Next. And this is a spoonbill, so known because of its spoon-like shape of its bill. Spoon-like. That is why spoonbill. I told you, no? Most of their names are derived from the physical features which they have. Next. Now this is the open bill stork, so named because of the gap in the bill.
With the bill.
And that gap is for holding the
Fish.
No, not fish. What do you say? Snails.
Okay.
उसका जो shell होता है, to break that shell, this becomes easier.
It's like a nutcracker.
Yes, like a nutcracker. So painted stork here.
Shall we go next?
Next. Now this is again a very common bird which you can see around any water body. This is a little cormorant, totally black. Next. And this is a darter snake bird. Now its habit is it will pierce a fish with its beak, and then both the mandibles are into mandibles means the
Beaks.
upper and lower part of the beak. They will be impaled in the fish, so it can't open it. So what it does it tosses the fish in the air and then catches it back with the head down. So it can swallow it easily. Next. Now these are again very common birds which you can see around here. That is black ibis, black-headed ibis, and this is glossy ibis. Glossy, you can see the shining on the back.
And these are all only depending on water.
Yeah, mostly dependent on water. And the next one which comes is the least dependent on water.
So these are on grassland, right?
Yeah, this is on the grassland, and it's a scavenger actually. And in this morning only I took a video of this bird from my bedroom window, and it had a chick, and it was feeding it, and the chick was demanding food. So that video I took in the morning. Next. Now this is a spot-billed duck. So named because of its the yellow spot on its bill. This is a common Indian, local bird. It breeds here only. Next. Now this is Brahmini duck. It comes from Tibet and beyond. And nearest breeding ground is Ladakh. Yeah. From there it comes to our area, and this is the breeding color. Breeding color. It comes in the winter. In the beginning of winter, say October. Generally, I'll talk about it in migration. I think, am I running out of the time?
You're still for about 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
So, again, this is a migratory bird. Bar-headed geese. These are also breeding in the central Mongolia, Tibet, and Ladakh. And this is the highest flying bird. It flies at a height of about 32,000 to 33,000 feet.
And they move in flocks, actually.
They move in flocks. And particularly these birds, when they migrate, they make a V-type formation. So the bird in the front, when it gets tired, because it faces the resistance of air maximum. So after some time, it will come last. The other birds which are in the V formation, they will get the benefit of the air resistance. Less air resistance they will get. Next. This is a northern shoiler. They come from northern Europe and Palearctic regions and Russia and all that. Next. Pintail duck. Pintail is so named because of the very pointed this tail. Yeah. So this is again a common poacher, common teal. And this is Garde teal. These are also coming from Europe and Russia. Next.
Across the mountains they come.
Yes, yes. They do use the passes. Next. This is of course mascot for bighorn.
Bighorn is famous for this.
Yes, bighorn is famous for it.
Even Thane Creek Bridge,
Thane Creek में भी होते हैं और सेवरी में भी होते हैं, New Bombay. So all those places.
So they get welcome to all the pollution.
Yes, great. Now these are the raptors which you see around. Water bodies. So this is a Brahmini kite. This is our local bird. Next. This is an osprey. Ospreys come to us from Russia. Next. The migration of birds, as I have been talking, I have told you so many birds come from so many other places. So migration of birds is a very interesting topic. Birds migrate every year, to and fro movement of birds from one continent to the other, one place to the other place is known as migration. So migration in the northern sphere starts from north to south and then goes back south to north. And in the southern hemisphere, it is the other way around.
Next.
So in the earlier picture, I showed you these are the migratory flyways on which directions in which the birds come. Now you'll see in India, the birds are coming from as far as
Siberia.
Almost Siberia and in the Palearctic region, and sometimes from Africa to India also. Next. Now here you can see. There is a horizontal migration also.
They can cross the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes. Next. Now this is a Amur falcon, which was a celebrity last year, and Lonavala they had come. And this bird flies a very long distance. You can see them next. In the next slide.
Wow.
On the top is the Amur falcon's migration route. So you can see where it is breeding and where it is going down to South Africa. And whereas on the one in the this bottom picture shows bar-tailed godwit's migration route. And last year the news flashed that a bar-tailed godwit had left from its breeding ground in Alaska and had gone to the south near
New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand, and it covered this distance non-stop for in 11 days. So this is generally the route which it takes.
Could be islands over it.
No. It was monitored particularly. They had fitted a chip in it. 3 birds were fitted.
Days it can fly.
Yeah. GPS chip was implanted, and they took this. Next.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah. Now we have seen the longest flyers and all that, and this is the bird which comes in very large numbers, because at one place only you may estimate the birds to be in lakhs. Yes. This is called a rosy plaster or rose-colored starling, and they make that murmuration. You might have seen the cloud-like formation they make in the evening. Yeah, before going for the night.
I think somebody had posted a video in Garde.
Yeah, I have also taken a video, but here I have avoided putting videos in this show.
Nesting of birds.
No, nesting of birds again is a very interesting subject. Various types of nests are made by the birds according to their own habit, lifestyle. So those cup-shaped nests which you see on the left,
This one.
yeah, they are made like made by birds like bulbuls, our local birds.
Okay.
And the one on the right side, next
This
to
one, yeah.
no, in the middle.
Yeah, middle.
Yeah, that is a cup-shaped nest which is, made of this thing, dried matter, and then it is surrounded, covered by cobwebs to make it stick together and make it strong.
First time I heard that cobwebs are used. Huh?
Yeah, cobweb threads are used.
Okay, the right and top corner.
The right and top corner is the nest of a grey heron, and with
This
the
one.
two chicks. So they make a platform like a nest.
So water.
On the tree.
This is water.
No. It is actually on top of a tree.
Top of a tree. Okay.
Yeah. And the water nest is on the yeah.
This one.
Yeah. That is the nest of a gapchik, or you can say these moorhens, swamp hen. They make such type of nest. Okay. Now one at the bottom.
This one.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah. This is made by
Mud, I think so.
swallows or martins. They make a nest of, they collect wet mud,
Okay.
and the blobs are stuck together. They mix it with saliva,
Yeah.
and it becomes so strong, it is like cement when it dries up. So those are the nests. The one in between is, of course, by a beaver bird and storks, and they make such type of platform nest.
Some on a height maybe.
Yeah, and the one at the bottom is the one I was talking about, green beaters.
जो खड्डा करके
ये जो burrow बनाते हैं, tunnel बनाते हैं अंदर, and they make a nest there. So these are different types of nests. There are many other types which I couldn't include. Next. Now, what is the importance of birds? They help regeneration of flora, work as pollinators, seed distributors. On the other hand, they also control the spread of harmful weeds by feeding on their seeds. They also fertilize soil. These are the benefits for the nature, and help in population control and of harmful insects and rodents. As I told you, these hovering birds too, that black-winged kite and kestrel, as well as all owls. They feed on rodents. Now, rodents, if they are left to themselves, a pair of rats will multiply to 900 in a year. So you can imagine how fast they can grow. Now, third one is work as scavengers to maintain cleanliness in nature. We see these vultures and crows and kites and things like that. Okay. Now, excellent indicators of health of environment. Now, this is very important feature, because the population of birds and the diversity of bird population in any area depends on its health of environment. So if the environment is really healthy, there will be number of birds there. In the one study in Poland, it was found that a place where these woodpeckers are in good number, other birds are also in very good number. So there, the biodiversity there is excellent. So these are the indicators. If this bird is there, then it is likely to be a very good environment. So these are indicators, excellent indicators of biodiversity, as I said, indicators of environmental pollution. Birds are the, very, sensitive to these things, and they will immediately leave the place or abandon the area, even if there is any smallest change in the pollution level. So it happens. And lately birds are generating a lot of economic activity also by way of bird tourism, photography, etc. And bird watching is very useful, de-stressing activity for individuals as well as helpful for researchers. So, as you asked me why bird watching, so this bird watching is essential. It's not only a very satisfying personal hobby, I can say, but it also helps because if I report my findings somewhere, like I did, I told you so many things about the golden oriole and quail and this thing where new things were seen. So if I report them, then it goes into the database about birds, which helps the researchers in further study of these species. Next. Now, factors which are threatening birds. Poaching and hunting. The poaching takes place for trade in exotic species, and for food also. Hunting hunting has developed as a big sport after the invention of rifles or guns, you can say. And habitat destruction and degradation due to human interference, for example, deforestation for timber and agriculture, industrial development, etc. Pollution, excessive use of chemical insecticides, fertilizers, agriculture, water pollution caused by industrial waste being released in rivers, nalas, oil leaks in oceans, etc. And other monoculture in plantation, genetically modified trees, plants, vegetables. What happens is when genetically modified, it is resistant to certain insects. So insects will go away. Insects will not be there. So birds which are living on those insects, they will disappear from that area. काम का जगह नहीं रहेगा. पहले जो था, they were there earlier, but now they can't find food, so they go away.
So this GM, जो अपन सुनते हैं GM, genetically modified seeds and all.
Yes.
They increase the production of the agriculture, but they disturb the environment.
Disturb the environmental imbalance. Now climatic changes, global warming, for example. And another thing is, very recently I came across a very interesting article. Now, last 2 years we have been having lockdowns and all that. So that is why there was much quieter environment, right? Because no vehicles were plying on the roads. Nothing was, the daily hubbub was much lesser than other times, busy times. So what happened is, they found that it's an American study, that the birds are making softer notes also now, and which can be heard for a longer distance. So they have developed different songs. The frequency has changed. They have added some more notes to their singing and all that. So this kind of a change has happened. So,
yeah.
No, it's okay. So this is my humble submission.
Yeah, excellent. I will just open this to all the people who would like to thank you, Prakash, for a beautiful this. And I would request now anybody, Eraj Barucha, Apurva, Freddy, and Mustafa is also there, I think so.
So may I start, Apurva? Yeah. So this was an absolutely fantastic this thing. Are you a photographer or are you just an ornithologist? Are you a bird watcher or are you because two different? Yes, sir.
I started with as an amateur photographer.
Okay.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that is how I was introduced to Prakash Gore.
Okay.
As I told in the beginning, I had gone there to photograph the event.
Right.
And there I was introduced to him. Later on, I acquired this camera, etc., for bird photography. I
Yes.
started my bird photography. And those days, those film cameras were there. So it's a very expensive hobby, actually.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's quite easy.
Yeah.
You can have a chip in.
So do you always go with the camera? I mean, when you go bird,
When I go out for birding, I always go out with camera.
and what is your equipment? What equipment do you have?
I have a very simple type of camera, entry level camera actually.
क्या बात है, sir? This is,
P900.
oh wow, yeah. But it's got a 40x zoom, right? It's got a very high zoom.
Yeah,
P900 is a very good camera.
Yeah, it's a very good camera.
P900, it has got a, zooming of up to 2000 mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite okay. And most of my photography I have done handheld. I have so far not used a tripod.
Okay. So one observation which I have, used to have a lot of sparrows in Pune. Okay. Now, because of the pollution and all that, they're reduced. But if you go to Bombay, if you go to South Mumbai, you get a lot of sparrows. So, which is worse than Pune because the pollution is much higher in Mumbai. But you find sparrows there, but not here. So, what is the reason for that?
I'll tell you. Here the population of pigeons is much more.
Oh, okay.
We are constructing high-rise buildings, and in the exterior there is no space for the sparrows to make nests. So what happens is, even if they try to make a nest, I have seen it actually happening. The pigeon will come and destroy the nest.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Even in my own place, in one of the adjoining flats, these munias had taken this thing for nesting. They had chosen that place for nesting because the owners had gone out.
Yeah.
So the flat was lying vacant for a long time, so they thought it is undisturbed and all that.
Yeah.
But the pigeons went there and destroyed the nest, and they made their own nest there.
Right. Okay.
So pigeons basically begin being bigger. The smaller birds are scared of them.
Right.
So that is one of the, nesting places. Another thing is we are covering the ground.
Mm.
There is no open ground or, sparrows like to have mud baths.
Right.
Yeah, dust bath.
Mm.
That is their regular routine for cleaning themselves.
Mm.
So sparrows now don't have, open ground to indulge in this activity. So
Yeah.
that is one of the reasons. They need some open ground for feeding also.
Mm.
So that is, to my mind, that is basically the cause. And some people said that these mobile towers are causing a lot of disturbance,
Vibrations.
vibrations and all that. That may be true. I am not sure about it.
No.
I'm not an expert in that field. But in my own locality, there are all types of huts.
Where do you stay, sir? Where do you stay in Pune?
I'm in Kothur.
Okay.
So there is adjacent to my society, there used to be old habitation. Houses, all type of houses.
Right.
Single story or at the most double story. So and with the tile roof or something like that. So based on the poles बल्ली बोलते हैं हिंदी में. बल्ली इसके ऊपर वो उसका ये रहेगा. Roof will be supported, and below the awnings, these sparrows used to nest.
Yes.
And next to that building, there was a big mobile tower.
Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know how far this is true, that the mobile towers are disturbing sparrows, but it may be.
So let's move to Dr. Would you like to make any comment?
Thank you very much, Prakash. It was a very nice presentation. And just a couple of comments, since Farooq wants me to say a few words. The number of bird photographers who have exponentially spread in numbers, whereas the bird population is dropping. Is the reverse thing that is happening.
That's a nice observation.
And yeah, but it's, we have a very large workforce now which can really become citizen scientists. And this is what Salim Ali used to always encourage. He used to ask people like me who didn't know too much about birds to write about observations, especially in the BNHS journal, which has short notes.
Right.
And my first writings were several of these little short notes. That is one part of it. The other part of it is what are we doing as, as bird photographers? We take these pictures like stamp collectors, and then we don't do too much with that. So how are we going to transit now into the next phase? Most of us have already reached this first phase of being documenters of birds. One of the things that we used to traditionally do was make bird lists. And even in those days, I used to sort of talk to Salim Ali and say, sir, we need to do something about looking at abundance levels. And unless we do that in a proper scientific way, we will get lots of miscalculations. Yeah. And in fact, Salim Ali wasn't very fond of this. Of course, the term citizen science didn't exist, but he, once or twice when I mentioned this to him, he said, well, if you do that on wetlands, you'll probably find a lot of pink-headed ducks, which is, of course, extinct in India. So this was something that we need to do and get training programs done for people, especially the photographer group who already knows how to look for birds, knows how to get close enough to get good telephoto photographs. Yeah. So this is something that we should do. But we also want to know what not to do. And one of the things that I never did was photograph birds at a nest. It's very strange. You photograph a bird at a nest, and very soon thereafter, and I really believe that this happens, though I haven't seen it, is that crows find the nest very easily and break it up and eat the eggs. So if that is a true fact, then photographing at a nest and disturbing a nest is a very bad sort of thing. The other is, which is getting increasingly popular now, which again has a certain risk, which is attracting birds by playing bird calls. And yeah. I mean, I was the first person to record bird calls in India and made the first cassettes and then the CDs. But one never uses that for attracting birds. And this has become extremely common. There's also a question of feeding birds. I've got 2 pairs of bulbuls which come to my house and demand for my half a banana every morning. So that sort of thing is okay. But if you go beyond that, I think that is also disturbing to bird behavior.
Yes.
And finally, I think we have to go beyond this photography stage into more serious understanding of bird behavior, bird ecology, and so on.
I agree totally, sir. And
thanks for this opportunity to speak on this. It happens to be one of my favorite topics anyway. Thank you very much, Prakash, for your beautiful pictures.
Let me tell you one small thing. Very recently, about 10 days ago, 2 owl chicks, one of this mottled wood owl and the other one of the brown fish owl, they were killed. And the reason for that, this fish owl chick being killed was, on that day, there were nearly 60-70 bird photographers who were calling it as playing their calls on the Wi-Fi, this Bluetooth mic, and they were calling. And so actually daytime is the resting time for these birds, nocturnal birds. They like to rest, as you know, they like to rest in the day. So when they are resting, if they disturb them and call them, so they will immediately, by instinct, they will go to the source of that noise call. So they will go there. So while it was flying like this, some raptor came and struck it.
So predators can capture.
Predators can capture them, and then you are actually advertising the nesting place for the marauders to come and destroy the eggs and chicks like that. So this is actually, I do not like to, photograph. I also don't photograph nests.
Okay, Gaurav, would you like to speak something, Gaurav?
Yeah, I don't really have a question, but sir, thank you so much for your presentation. It was really insightful, and I especially like the fact that most bird presentations today like to focus on the very colorful or very beautiful or very rare birds. But
As
I
I told you,
especially like that you highlighted the common species.
common
That
species which can be seen by a common man.
exactly,
Man
and
of the street.
a lot of bird watchers actually tend to ignore these birds.
And as I said, I have observed some very rare things about birds. As I told you about golden oriole. Another very interesting thing which I noticed about golden oriole was when the chicks become big enough, independent enough. They are adults. At that time also, they follow their parents,
Yeah.
almost fully grown up, but they follow the parents for food. And I have seen a parent bird actually shooing the chicks away. It was not allowing it to come closer. It was actually pecking the chick and making it go away. So this is the behavior sometimes you come across.
So, Sandhi and Mustafa, you have anything else to add, Gaurav?
Yeah, so just one thing I wanted to add, like Eric sir said, we do have a lot of bird watchers and photographers and all today. And, it is, I mean, agreed, a lot of them are unethical, but I think it would be a waste not to use these people. So, for example, for things like citizen science, eBird, for example, is a great platform. And I think more than anything, a lot of these people are doing these behaviors. Most of them are unaware of, the consequences.
Correct.
They don't know what is wrong with playing a bird call or what is wrong with baiting a bird with food or
Exactly,
something.
because they are not grown like us. We have
Exactly.
grown watching the birds, and being conscious of their requirements and other things.
Gaurav,
Now,
my idea is like this, Prakash, is that if you know people like these, if there is a forum, Gyanadab can host such programs, wherein we can get people like you who know birding and, do's and don'ts, and we can, get a very interested people to come forward and sort of conduct an exercise how bird watching can be productive and how
Yeah,
it can
that would be a very good tool. I
I
think.
would like to, Gyanadab would like to, Gyanpedia would like to host a program. Like
actually, as in my introduction, you mentioned that I have conducted some programs, workshops. So those workshops I conducted for the school teachers, middle school teachers. Why? First to train the teachers, tell them what is bird watching,
let
why
them-
they are to be watched, and what is the importance of birds in our life and all that. So doing all this, they can learn themselves and then tell the students. So that was the purpose of my conducting these workshops.
कोई भी स्कूल में ना प्रकाश एक भी टीचर रहेगा ना
Exactly.
who's trained on birds ना he can train large number of children.
I have a pleasure to tell you that there is a organization, Vanasthali.
Vanasthali.
Yeah, you must have heard about it. So through them, I was given this task of training teachers. So I conducted workshops in the rural areas where these birds. And now I was surprised in one school, that very famous school. It was internationally. I'm forgetting the name. It's quite close by. So there, the students were already knowing something about my program. When I went there, they already studied and why this man is coming for, what type of a lecture he is going to give. In anticipation of that, they started their own preparation. And when I went there, they showed me their own photographs. And one student of the 8th standard, he had a beautiful picture of a white-breasted kingfisher catching a snake and swallowing it, trying to swallow it. So these kind of, I mean, if they are properly coached into bird watching and importance of conservation of birds and all these things, it can happen. But now there is a race for
Instagram, no? Instagram is the main reason they want
Yeah,
to put that thing on Instagram.
you put there and then you become, you get so many likes, thousands of likes you'll get. But that is not the purpose. Photography is, of course, for recording, but these people are now, it has become a profession also. They are commercial activity, it has become. They are selling their pictures on online.
Mustafa, I would like you to come into, Mustafa, would you like to please add something?
Yeah, let me start with this. It was a beautiful presentation. Thank you very much for that. And it is very highly appreciated. I had a couple of things to add to. I mean, if somebody is a new, starting bird watching newly, then you see a bird. How do you link it to a source? In which, say, you have a bird to classify it based on color, size, other things. So probably identify a bird that you see.
Identification
Would be good. Another thing is, now we have also out of the COVID thing.
Sorry, sir.
So we are, this thing. Farooq, my video has been.
No, I have, because your connection is so weak.
Admin, so probably you need to allow me to have a video on.
Wi-Fi is very poor.
Just as disabled SR.
You can put it on.
Hey Farooq, if
Yeah.
he wants to log out and log in to get a better connection, I can ask a question in the middle while he can.
Mustafa, is it okay if you can log off and log in again because your Wi-Fi is very poor?
Yeah.
So till then, Sandeep, you can speak.
Yeah. The second thing that I wanted to mention.
Yes.
Yeah, Farooq, the second thing that I wanted to mention was, now that the COVID and other lockdown and other things are over, probably we should be organizing some actual outings with experts on various topics. That would be even more interesting. And especially the winter is a good time to have go for birding after the rains.
Yes.
So probably we could, you could guide us on a actual tour around. That would be even more interesting.
It would be.
Actually, most of the photographs are taken around Prakash's house only. So better we go to his house. He will meet us for some point. Okay, Sandeep, quickly we are going a little out of time. Sandeep would like to add something.
No, I just, sorry, I have been listening. First of all, very fascinating presentation. My name is Sandeep Prakash Bide and I'm calling from Portland. One thing that I realized, we are talking about bird watching and all the problems in the environment. But to be honest with you, if I step back, the same problem exists with plants, the same problem exists with animals, the same problem exists with fish. So this is, I know you're a bird lover, but this is a problem common across all species. They are either, their habitats have been pushed out, or we are disturbing their natural rhythm. So the question is it, how can we up-level this so that we look at the entire environment and the ecosystem so that it will include birds and animals and fish and plants? And the second point in my mind is, learning is one thing, and teaching teachers and teaching students is one thing. But I think at some stage, shouldn't we collectively all stand in front, for example, in front of Pune Mahanagarpalika and say, hey, the type of development you are doing, the types of roads that you are doing, the types of buildings you are approving are not okay. Because if there is no plan for collective action, then nothing is going to make a difference.
Sir, I agree with you. There is it is necessary to have a holistic approach towards conservation of nature in general. Okay, not exactly for birds alone or for fish alone or for plants alone. It's a, all-pervading thing, and the reason for it is our own interference into nature, humans. Now, I came across an article in which it was said that the maximum destruction that is happening is because of the human interference, and the number of species of birds which had gone extinct in the earlier four eras was due to natural causes, whereas the next one, which is happening now, is due to human interference, and this is going to be the most, most destructive of them all. Nearly 25% of the bird species are threatened. So it is like that. So what we have to do is we have to learn the causes for this kind of decline in the bird population or change of their environment and all. Why they?
One of the interesting things which Eric Burchard said, that we should also talk about insects and other things, because it's all part of the
food chain. That is the food chain. So it requires a holistic approach. And let me tell you, one very encouraging thing has happened is people like me went to the corporation. They persuaded the corporation for cleaning the Pashan tank. Shahrukh, you might remember I had put a picture of Pashan tank, Pashan lake, full of hyacinth. There was no water to be seen. Entire thing was covered with green hyacinth only, nothing else. But now recently Pune Corporation took an initiative and they have cleaned the lake of all hyacinth. But what happens is the pollution of the feeder river, which is Ram Nadi. That Ram Nadi is having, small establishments around along its banks, and all the refuse from there, human waste as well, goes into the stream. And this bio waste is the best thing for hyacinth to survive. So that is why it is multiplying everywhere. And same is the case with Mutha River.
I think Freddie wants to add something. Freddie, would you like to say something?
Yeah. As you said, we have about 10,000 odd species of birds which were evolved from the dinosaurs. Is that true? And are all 10,000 of them evolved from there?
I couldn't understand
He's saying that all birds have come from dinosaurs. Is that proven, or are there some birds which came from dinosaurs?
No, the dinosaurs are the origins. And from their speciation, as I said, due to differentiation, and later on there must have been some more evolution. Mutations are there.
So basically, birds have evolved from dinosaurs. Is that it?
A smaller type of dinosaurs. And they were all flesh eating.
Carnivores.
Yeah.
Freddie, next time now we must have a proper audio for you, because we cannot hear what you're saying. So I think next time practice करेंगे before you join, because we want to hear you, but we are unable to hear you.
It's okay.
So Eric, you want to say something?
Yeah, just a very quick, three very quick responses to three very interesting questions that have come up. One is, what does a newcomer do if he wants to get fascinated with bird watching? And Currently, there is an easy way to do it is on a mobile by using eBird. But I would really suggest that you actually read from the maestro, read from Salim Ali's book, because the descriptions that he gives are exactly what was asked. Are there pointers as to what to look for? And that is so beautifully done. And every other guidebook has plagiarized what he wrote about. So that was the first question that I thought I should answer. The second was why birds and not other taxa? Birds are the most easy ones to do. Mammals, you've got to go out somewhere unless you want to photograph my civet from my garden, which comes every night. But that is the other things that it's bird watching is easy. Insect watching is too wide and much more difficult. Plants, yes, people do that. And now there is an increasing number of people interested with indigenous plants and so on. Butterflies is easy. So it's a question of ease and how frequently you can see things. The other thing was that what do we actually want out of this kind of a hobby or a semi-professional thing like today what we heard? What do we want from this? We want actually biodiversity conservation to happen, yes, which is the biggest threat today that the world is faced with. It's faced with two things. It's faced with climate change and biodiversity loss. And if we can get a mass movement together for conservation to happen, and we could influence policymakers, influence administrators, like somebody mentioned about Pune, then of course we will have achieved something which is really worthwhile. Otherwise, it's great fun. It's very nice to do. It's aesthetically very appealing. It gives a little bit of peace and quiet and whatever. But actually what we want to see happen is conservation. And there are ways to do that, joining societies which do this, joining groups which do this, lobbying with things, writing about it in the press. And this makes a lot of sense to me. So thank you very much. It's been a very nice program. And I'm sure we can have many more like this because Pune is full of bird watchers and bird photographers. Thank you very much. Farooq, thank you for calling me about this. Thanks.
So there is one participant, her name is Neelu Rajput. She has written that I am an early childhood educator. I am curious to know if there are any sites where teachers can access information on local birds of Pune and help children explore bird watching with young children too. So this is what Neelu Rajput has asked.
Okay.
So she's there, she can hear what we answer.
Yeah. Well, I am not aware of any such organization, but there are small groups like bird watchers. There are many groups here in Pune who actually do bird watching, and that ILA Foundation.
Which foundation?
ILA
Foundation.
Run by Dr. Satish Pandey. So that is one very good organization which is doing great work. And there are some, bird watching this our, I'm forgetting his name, Khare. That fellow is also there. They are running some organization. Gaurav is also conducting and like that.
Let's ask Neelu. Neelu, what had you in mind when you wrote this thing on the chat?
What happened?
Hello. Thank you for addressing my question. Actually, in the past year, we researched with children about adaptations, what birds make. And that was whatever sources we got, moreover, it was from books. And I feel like to make children connect with the real birds, that makes a big difference, having like local connections. So that's why I had put up a question if there is a site. And I think you did mention about the ILA Foundation, right?
Yeah.
So I'll definitely connect with that. But I really strongly feel like the younger children, if we really get them involved into these things, they are like our future citizens who will be more aware and they're naturally drawn to nature. So that's why I had put this up. Thank you for answering my question.
I would request you to one thing. If you can put your phone number on the chat, we will
Sure.
make part of the Gyanpedia WhatsApp group. Then immediately you will have 6-7 very serious bird watchers on Gyanpedia. You can talk to them, and it takes one teacher in one school can motivate the entire children of the school to bird watching.
Yeah.
So if Nidu, you put your number down, we will put you on the Gyanpedia page, and you will be part of this group here.
And as I
Beautiful.
mentioned,
Yeah, I'll do that definitely.
Yeah, do that, and we'll copy it, and then I will introduce you to Gyanpedia WhatsApp group here.
and ma'am,
Beautiful.
as
Yes.
I said, I conducted a few workshops for the benefit of teachers, and with the sole idea that the young ones, young students, can be caught into this activity and this fascinating hobby also at a young age, so that they become
Yes.
serious bird watchers and serious conservators later on in life. So that is the very whole purpose of my conducting those workshops.
Yeah, so Prakash, I think we are running out of time. It's nearly now 9 o'clock. Sandeep, I would request you to please give your vote of thanks on behalf of Gyanpedia, Gyanadab.
Thank you very much for giving me the honor, Farooq. This has been a very fascinating presentation, as it is always. It's a delight. It's a desert of it's a dessert of pleasure that I always get through each one of these presentations. And thank you, Prakash ji, for wonderfully explaining in 360 degrees for covering all the aspects of bird watching. I would leave with one thought which I started with mine, which is learning and gaining knowledge is absolutely necessary, but at some stage we also need to have for the lack of bad word, we need a political action community to make sure that the ecosystem is restored, and that the legislators and the politicians are not just giving us a deaf ear, because this is a question about your and my and everybody's existence. So I think with that thought, I want to once again thank you, Prakash ji, for an awesome presentation. This means a lot to us, the listeners, the teachers, the novices, for increasing our interest in birds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to present this program here.
Yeah, I can see many people putting their names, phone numbers on this. We will keep this chat alive for a few minutes, and those who would like to leave can leave. I would like to post. And Sandeep, thanks for the vote of thanks, and thank you for being present. And Freddy, thanks for, we must solve your audio problem for once. And Ayush Diwate has put in his number. I think Virendra Saab ko maine request kiya number dalne ko. And Neetu Rajput, she has put in a number, and Mr. Samarth Bhagwat has put in the number. I'll add you to the Gyanpedia group, so you can talk to Gaurav Nalkur, Eraj Barucha, Mustafa Lokhandwala, Prakash ji is there. Huh? So everybody is there, you can talk. So I'll take your leave, and I will just put on the video of Nityasha Foundation. This is a foundation which we run, and we request people to donate to Nityasha Foundation. Please donate to Nityasha Foundation if you have liked the program.